Welcome back, everybody. Episode 20. For those of you who don't know, that's 20. Episode 20 of the Great Canadian Fight Show. Welcome back. No fights to report last weekend, but there was a WrestleMania for us to briefly talk about and a huge UFC card next weekend. So we're here to preview UFC 273 for you as usual. One half of your co-host, Alex Dowdesel, reporting live from beautiful Calgary, Alberta. Joined as always by my brilliant, the brilliant and skeptical Kyle Allen. How we doing tonight, partner?
We're not doing too good today. We're not doing too good.
Oh,
Coming off a tough loss in my beer league hockey. We're down 2-1, but we're looking for redemption on Saturday. Try and tie this up and hopefully get us into Game 5 next week.
you know, we're invested in this, Kyle. So why don't you give us the name of your team, the name of the team you're playing, and again, can you repeat for the fans when the pivotal Game 3 will be happening?
So my team's called the Night's Watch. You heard it right. The same as Game of Thrones. We have a pretty good logo that's reminiscent of Game of Thrones. And the team we're playing, I think they're called the Rockets. Lame. And yeah, we had 3 games so far. Went 1-1. And that last game didn't go too well. Gonna blame the refs. The refs are making some bad calls, but yeah, I think we're gonna get them on Saturday night and push for a fifth game.
Great Canadian Fight Show wishes the men of the Night's Watch a victory coming up. Winter is coming, and I know that by the fact that you took your lovely girlfriend to see, lovely fiance, excuse me, to see Cirque du Soleil on Saturday night, I can say that you broke your vow. Wink, wink, wink. We move on, folks. As we saw, it was a WrestleMania weekend. Kyle, did you happen to take a peek at WrestleMania? Any matches stand out?
I took a peek. I can't say that I watched the whole thing, but I definitely caught Edge versus AJ Styles. Edge being definitely like a childhood hero or a childhood like favorite when I was younger. So I'm glad I caught that one. And AJ Styles, he seems super exciting. So man, watching it it definitely still has some vibes from being a kid, watching Monday Night Raw, watching WrestleMania, getting hyped up for the WrestleMania coming up, and they're still doing it. It still looks like amazing. The presentation they have, the vibe they have, and man, I thought it was great. What did you think?
Oh, I thought it was fantastic too. I mean, especially end of night one, Stone Cold Steve Austin coming back for a match at the tender age of 57, drinking so many beers on the job. I mean, I loved it too. And a special Great Canadian shout out as well to the Game, Triple H, who unfortunately had to retire recently, but he's a legend. Definitely one of the Mount Rushmores of the sport. I mean, I hated him back in the day. I've always been a Rock guy, Kyle. But shout out to Triple H. I mean, he really is the man. I mean, Kyle, you were an Attitude Era fan. I mean, was there no bigger heel than the Game, Triple H?
Yeah, him and DX. Yeah, they were definitely the biggest heel. The only one I can think of before, what was that group? The with like the Rock and Vince McMahon and
The
they were
corporation.
the corporation. That was kind of up there, but yeah, definitely DX and Triple H were like they were the biggest heels. And Triple H was a heel like most of his career, I would say.
He was. He definitely played that role to perfection. I mean, he was one of my favorites growing up. I just hated him as a kid. I hated him. I
Yeah,
hated how they were always screwing the Rock. It wasn't fair, Kyle.
yeah. There's no one better than Triple H to play the heel. I would say arguably say he was the best heel in wrestling history.
That's yeah. I mean, that's definitely up there for debate for sure. But yes, WrestleMania, folks, it was one for the books. If you haven't seen it, we highly recommend you go back and watch it. For those Attitude Era faithfuls, you do get that nostalgia feel. So this weekend was amazing for WWE fans. But this is an MMA podcast, folks, and we have a massive card to preview for you guys next weekend. UFC 273 going back to Jacksonville. In the main event, we have the returning champion Alexander Volkanovski. That's the featherweight champion going up against the Korean Zombie. Kind of a strange matchup. For those of you who don't know, Max Holloway had to pull out due to an injury, so the Korean Zombie stepped in. Kyle Allen, how do you see this main event playing out this Saturday night?
On this fight, all these fights on this card, it wouldn't be a bad idea to pick the dog on any of these fights and potentially you can make some money on some of these fights. But the way I see this playing out, I think Volkanovski will have too much control in this fight, and he'll definitely get the zombie down. I see it probably ending in TKO, like ground and pound or something like that. But that being said, I think the Korean Zombie he has a shot. He has a he's durable. He always comes forward. Maybe he can clip Volkanovski early on or in the middle rounds, and maybe get a TKO of his own. I think it's not likely, but possible.
Okay, so let's dig into it a little bit more here, because it's no shocker for those of you who've seen the Vegas line that the Korean Zombie is coming in as a huge dog. What do you think he has to do? Again, like you mentioned, he's durable. I totally agree with you. He's a hard guy to get out of there. I mean, God forbid landing a crazy elbow from Rodriguez, but he hasn't really been finished very often in recent history. I mean, what are his keys to victory on Saturday night?
Yeah, once again, his durability is probably one of his keys, and then he has submissions. He has good submissions. He beat what's his name? I'm blanking on this guy's name. He got him in a twister. The first fight they fought was like one of the best fights in UFC history. It was early on. I'm just trying to think of his name.
It was Leonard Garcia back in March 26th of 2011. Holy shit, this guy's been in the UFC for a while.
Yeah, that was like one of the fight of the decades, basically. And the second one, he got him in a twister. So he definitely has some unique submissions that I think he could potentially catch Volkanovski in. So I think that might be another key to victory, would be getting him in submission.
Volkanovski, though, for those of you who haven't seen the countdown, a very interesting segment. Just compares it in training to fighting with sharks, where basically he'll be hitting the bag with his coach and his teammates will sneak up on him from the back and put him in a vulnerable submission, and then he just has to kind of get out of it. And we definitely saw him put those skills to execution against Ortega in his last fight in a deep guillotine, which is actually one of Ortega's favorite moves to finish. Yeah, I mean, Volkanovski going to be a tough guy to put out of there, but Korean Zombie definitely has a puncher's chance on Saturday night, and yeah, I can see him maybe putting in a submission in there. But let's talk more about Volkanovski here, because he is slowly going up the ranks for all-time featherweights. Kyle Allen, where do you see Volkanovski ranking right now on the all-time featherweight list?
He's definitely up there. Like, I would probably still put Max Holloway a little bit ahead of him, but he's potentially getting right there with Max Holloway, like a 1 and 2, right? 1 and 2, and then the other one, who is a featherweight, and then Jose Aldo would be the other one. Those would be the 1, 2, and 3. I'd probably still put Jose Aldo ahead of him slightly. Then I'd do Holloway 2, Volkanovski 3. But if he gets another few more title defenses in dominant fashion, I think he's right there with Max Holloway, and potentially he could beat Jose Aldo for the pound for pound best featherweight.
Kyle, I'm disappointed in you. You forgot the GOAT featherweight. You forgot about McGregor, baby. Come on. Who the fuck is that guy? What, you think he's already surpassed the Mac?
Well, I mean, if he fought a few more times at featherweight, then maybe. But unfortunately, he beat the title holder and then basically vacated the belt. So a little bit hard to put him in there, but maybe put him in 4th.
Agree to disagree, some would say. No, I'm just playing, folks. I don't think McGregor is the best featherweight of all time. But we move on. Again, we're excited for that one. Again, a huge featherweight championship fight in the main event on Saturday night. In the co-main, we have the bantamweight championship. It's Peter Yan returning to the octagon against Aljamain Sterling. Excuse me. Do you see any scenario here? Because again, Yan coming in as a huge favorite. Do you see any scenario where Sterling wins, or in your opinion, does Yan dominate on Saturday night?
I can definitely see Sterling winning. In their last fight, he looked really good early on. I think his gas tank is what kind of failed him towards the end. And Peter Yan's just so good at figuring his opponents out. He kind of takes it easy in the first couple of rounds. Then once he has you figured out, he puts it to you. So I think it's going to be up to Sterling to kind of be able to push it into those later rounds. If his gas tank fails him again, then it's definitely going to go Peter Yan's way. But if Sterling can control him, and I would think he probably has a better wrestling than Peter Yan, if you can control him the whole fight or get him in a submission, kind of like he did with Corey Sandhagen, then he's definitely got a good shot to win this fight.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. But Kyle, in honor of WrestleMania and WWE, let's dig into the story here because we always love the rest, WWE, WWF for the storylines. What are your thoughts on this story here? You've got Sterling winning the belt off an illegal knee, kind of claiming at the beginning that he doesn't want the belt, but then in the background you got videos coming out of him celebrating, calling himself the champ. Like, let me get your thoughts here because the bad blood between these guys, like, it seems to be real.
Yeah, like first of all, I don't like the rule that like a fight that ends like that where it's a disqualification. I agree with disqualification. It's a legal knee. I don't think Sterling can continue after that. He's too compromised if he goes kind of like what's his name, John Jones and Anthony Smith.
Yeah.
Like Anthony Smith could have just taken the belt and gone, but he didn't. But he was definitely compromised after that. And if you're compromised like that and you go keep fighting, it's not going to be good. So I agree with the stoppage, but in that situation, I think it should basically vacate the belt. So no one has the belt, and then they do the rematch for the actual undisputed belt. So by going afterwards and saying that you're the champ and blah blah blah, like that's kind of a little cringy in my opinion, but technically I guess he is a champ.
Do you think Sterling's kind of painted himself as the bad guy here going into this fight?
I don't know if he's the bad guy, but it's kind of like in the middle. Like they're both kind of like Peter Yan is he kind of seems like the bad guy always. So hard to say who the bad guy is in this one, but maybe.
Why do you say that? Because he's Russian?
He just kind of has that. He kind of just has that mean persona to him, like kind of like I'm just going to destroy you persona. So maybe he comes off as kind of like the bad guy all the time.
Yeah, no, I'm just joshing you, man. But yeah, we're excited to see that one. Again, a big fight in the bantamweight division. TJ Dillashaw surely waiting for the winner. Your boy. Do you think that's the next fight after this one? Winner gets TJ.
Yeah, for sure. I don't see any other fight really that's that interesting at 135 yet. Like there are some up and coming guys coming up that a ton of them coming up, like Sean O'Malley, Marlon Vera. What's the other guy? Another Russian guy that's a really good at wrestling. Is a tough name to pronounce, but that guy. So there's definitely a lot of good talent coming up, but right now that's definitely the fight to make after this one.
Love to see it too. We love Dillashaw, and we're excited for the winner to take him on and to see him back in the championship picture. Third fight of the night, the one that a lot of people are going to be tuning in for just because of the unbelievable amount of hype that this guy brings. Khamzat Chimaev, new resident UFC super smash bro. How do you see this fight playing out, Kyle? Do you think he comes in and dominates Burns? Like, are people disrespecting Burns' name here?
I think there's a little bit of disrespect, a little bit of it's a really tough one to say. Like the stuff that Chimaev has been able to do, the way he's been able to beat people is pretty insane. Like the one punch KO of Mershot or whatever his name is, and the domination of his last fight. I see why the hype is there, but Gilbert Burns is no slouch. He's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He has all the makings to make this a fight, potentially win it by submission or something like that. So I think people are definitely forgetting about Burns and how good he is. But we're going to find out this weekend if the hype is real.
I mean, arguably, Burns has been the one that's had Usman next to Kobe Covington in the very first fight. He's the one that's had Usman in the most trouble. And you've got Chimaev going from Li Jiangliang to Gilbert Burns. I mean, I don't know. For me personally, I think there's a huge amount of disrespect on on Gilbert Burns' name. And if you're going to throw money on an underdog this weekend, I think it might be worthwhile for you to take a look at Gilbert Burns, because this fight is it's closer to a pick'em than a huge favorite Chimaev. I mean, would you disagree? Would you agree?
Yeah, it's tough because like Chimaev hasn't fully proven himself against a top level guy. So that's like the real big question. And Gilbert Burns he is a top level guy. So it's really gonna depend on if the hype is real this weekend or if it's not.
And in your opinion, does the winner of Saturday night's fight get a fight against Usman, or do they get a fight against someone, say, like Kobe Chaos Covington?
I think it goes two ways. I think if Gilbert Burns wins, I don't think he gets another fight against Usman. I know Leon Edwards is still like that's apparently the next fight.
Yeah.
If Gilbert Burns wins, I see him probably fighting Kobe Covington. But if Chimaev wins, I think he gets catapulted right into the title shot.
I agree.
In my opinion, I don't think Covington's going to take that fight against Chimaev. I think Covington is more likely to take the fight against Gilbert Burns. That's just how I feel, and will likely happen. But you never know. Leon Edwards versus Usman is still an interesting fight. They fought a long, long time ago, so both fighters have gotten a lot better since. So that fight's another interesting one. So there's definitely some interesting matchups at the welterweight division.
Folks, Great Canadian Fight Show host Kyle has called out Kobe Covington, saying that he's afraid of Chimaev. Kobe, he said it, not me. Don't come after me, dog. It's him. It's him.
Hey, don't cheat.
This guy's about to get us both banned from Miami.
Don't cheat on me. Don't cheat on me.
But again, Chimaev, very excited to see him back in the octagon. Again, like I mentioned, the hype for this guy is unreal, Kyle. Do you remember in recent history when we last saw this much hype with a fighter, maybe besides Conor McGregor?
He doesn't really have that he has a lot of hype with like his skill and stuff like that. I wouldn't say he's quite the superstar quality of Conor McGregor. I would more say like Paddy Pimblett kind of has that like that talk and stuff to him, but yeah, he's definitely up there with like maybe like a Stylebender. Stylebender is not the biggest trash talker, but just has all the skill. I think it might be more a little bit like along the lines of a Stylebender than Conor McGregor.
I mean, it's unreal the praises that this guy gets, even from fellow UFC competitors, like people that spar with him. I don't know if you got to catch the Sean Strickland interview with the Schmo. Did you happen to watch that one?
I didn't know, no.
So Schmo kind of asked him, like what happened, and Strickland said, "Oh, well, you saw, like, what do you think happened?" And Schmo says, "Oh, well, he took you down and he tapped you out." And we're talking about a guy who's a middleweight contender here.
Yeah.
And Strickland says, he says his thing, "Oh, well, I fight the man's fight on my feet. But when he took me down, fucking yeah, he tapped me out." This guy's tapping out middleweights, Kyle, and guys that are in the top 5 of middleweight, concretely in the top 5. So again, Khamzat Chimaev, guys, we could be watching the next big thing. Shout out to Brock Lesnar, who should have won on Saturday night. But folks, we are done wrapping up 273 for you, so it's time for the segment, The News, baby. Now we get into the first topic of the news. Our main man, Rory McDonald, is back in the octagon in the PFL versus Brett Cooper on May 6th. In honor of this, what is your favorite Rory McDonald moment?
I feel like there's a few, but like the main one would obviously have to be the what's his name? Oh, so bad with names. Him
talking about the Robbie Lawler fight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. My memory is slipping me today. But yeah, him versus Robbie Lawler is definitely the Rory McDonald highlight for sure. That was an all-out war, and unfortunately lost that fight, but that fight was really intense, and it was definitely a just bleed special for sure.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to pick any other ones than that. I mean, I thought he had a great showing against Gegard Mousasi when he was the welterweight champion at Bellator, and Mousasi was the middleweight champion. And, Mousasi ended up winning, but I still thought it was a great fight. But yeah, I mean, his fight for Lawler, all-time Slabanaka. I mean, for those of you who haven't seen it, folks, this is an all-timer. I mean, the guys are bleeding all over the place. It's absolutely disgusting. But at the same time, it's absolutely glorious. And this is why we watch this shit. Uh, Second piece of news, women's bantamweight champion, yes, bantamweight champion Juliana Pena calls out Ronda Rousey a sellout for going to the WWE after back-to-back losses. Kyle, do you agree or disagree with this statement by the champ?
I'm gonna go with disagree. I think what Ronda Rousey did was smart. Like, she wasn't going to be come in and beat Amanda Nunes, and if she kept fighting, she would just fight lesser fighters, maybe take another loss and tarnish her career even more. She went the way of making the most money, making something more of her career, and I think it's smart. You're definitely gonna make more money doing WWE than you are fighting lesser fighters. So I don't agree, but Julia Pena obviously has her own opinion on that. So
Yeah, I mean, Juliana Pena is having her moment in the sun. I mean, she's on top of the world right now, and she's talking shit. I mean, look, you can't take anything away from Ronda Rousey. She's a pioneer of the sport. She put women's MMA on the map. In hindsight, she might have been a little bit one-dimensional, but shit. I mean, she had a string of fights in a row, and she was the baddest woman on the planet for a substantial amount of time. So I disagree. Get out of here with that, Juliana Pena. Carry on. A great Canadian. Carry on. Next piece of the news, we got Kelvin Gastelum officially announces his withdrawal from UFC 273 at the last minute due to an eye injury. His opponent comes out and says that this is fishy behavior. Kyle Allen, is this something or is this nothing?
Could be something. I'm thinking he was really looking for the first fight he had before the guy pulled out. And then maybe when this guy opponent got announced, he was like, I don't know. I've never been in like a MMA fight or anything like that, but if you totally got switched opponents, I'm sure it would kind of throw you off and you'd be a little bit more worried than you would be against someone else. So I can see why maybe potentially pulled the little slipperoony, little fake Rooney to get out of this one, but maybe it is really an injury, and maybe we're overthinking this one. But if he did, I can see kind of why he did it.
Understood. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I think we're making too big of a deal out of this. I think maybe for all we know, he was going in wounded. You're right, against the first opponent, and once that first opponent pulled out, he just said fuck it, and you know what, I'll take a fight later this year. I don't think Kelvin Gastelum is going anywhere. Next piece of news. Everybody's favorite Polish hammer, Jan Blachowicz, back in the ring on May 14th against Alexander Rakic. Kyle Allen, who wins this one?
If I had to choose, I'd probably go with Blachowicz. I think that loss against Teixeira probably really lit a fire under him. I think he's going to come back better than ever. And he bring back that extreme Polish power. And I think he gets either a KO or a TKO on Alexander.
Again, I'm sorry, folks, that I can't disagree with my brilliant co-host, but I have to agree with him on this as well. Everybody has bad nights at the office. I firmly believe that Blachowicz versus Teixeira, not to take away anything from Glover Teixeira's performance, but I felt it was a bad night at the office for Blachowicz. Unfortunately, sometimes with these smaller countries, it's really weird to call Poland a small country, but when they get a champion like that champion, it just seems exhausting, the amount of pressure and the amount of media and just everything that comes with being a champion from those, smaller countries in the world of MMA, I guess I should say, in comparison to like a Canadian champion or an American champion. And I do think that the pressure was just too much, and it was too much on his shoulders. And yeah, I firmly believe that this lit a fire under him as well, and that he will be back this weekend. Or not this weekend, on May 14th, like I said. Last piece of the news, folks, we've got John Jones tweeted out recently that he plans on being in peak condition by June, July. Kyle, what are the chances that we see Bones in the octagon this year?
This year, for sure, I think it's a very good chance we see him in the octagon. Against who is up for debate. I think the real only one that is probably in the radar would be Stipe. Stipe hasn't fought in quite a while. John Jones hasn't fought in a long time. That's probably the most fight that makes sense. And it's possible to do it this summer. I think both guys seem like they're probably ready for that. And take my money, and I'm down to see that fight.
Oh, take my money too. Gosh, I'd love to see that fight. Folks, that puts a wrap on episode 20 of the Great Canadian Fight Show. Tune into UFC 273 this weekend, April 9th. Again, the main event is Alexander Volkanovski versus the Korean Zombie for the featherweight title bout, and 2 other big fights that we discussed on this podcast. Thank you very much again for tuning in. If you like what you see, like and subscribe to our podcast, and follow us on Instagram at Great Canadian Fight Show 2022. Thank you very much, folks. Kyle Allen, it's been a pleasure talking fights with you this weekend. Did you have any finishing thoughts here before we cap off this episode?
Not too much. Definitely tune into this Saturday night fight. It's going to be, we only went over a couple of the top main fights, but there are some definite bangers on this card. You got like Ian Gary in the prelims. You got a bunch of good fights from prelims down, the early prelims, the main prelims, the main card. It's a super stacked card. It's probably going to be one of the best cards of the year. At least it is on paper. So definitely tune in. I know I'm going to tune in, although I'm going to miss it on the Saturday night, and I'm going to try to tune in Sunday morning. Avoid all social media. And yeah, I can't wait, to be honest.
Keep an eye out for our quick picks segment, folks. That's going to be coming out too prior to the weekend. For those of you looking to make a bet, tune into Quick Picks to get our picks for this weekend's fights. And shout out to the Night's Watch. Again, get her done, boys. Winter is coming. Thank you very much, guys, and have yourselves a beautiful evening.